Thomas Jefferson's going to assume the presidency here, and we're going to basically break his presidency up into a couple of parts. One is the Louisiana Purchase, and then the other part will be the political part, what he did in office. And so we'll have two different test materials on this. So today we're going to talk about the Louisiana Purchase, and the first subtopic will be doubling the nation's size under President Jefferson. Okay, so the Louisiana Purchase and doubling the nation's size under President Jefferson. Okay, during Napoleon's quest for power in Europe, in 1800 he secured this Louisiana territory from Spain. So in 1800, what used to belong to Spain, this vast area over here, this great big vast area over here, belonged to Spain. But Napoleon, during his conquests in Europe, acquired, so to speak, this area from Spain. So now it's a French possession. And it covered like 820,000 square miles. It's a lot of area. And the news of Louisiana becoming a French possession really alarms President Jefferson. Now I want you to think deep. Why would he care that France owned the Louisiana territory? Why would that make any difference to him? Because it's crucial. It's crucial. And you kind of have to go back to some of the things that were accomplished during George Washington's presidency to understand this. Why would he care if France had now possession of Spanish Louisiana territory? Why would he care? Come on now, impress me. Where's that?
Setting down the Mississippi River?
That's exactly right, Alex. We have the right of deposit with who?
Spain.
Spain. We do not have the right of deposit with France. So all of a sudden, this ability to go down the Mississippi River and trade and all that stuff no longer exists because our agreement is with Spain. Remember I told you before, we didn't own New Orleans. We only had the right of deposit to navigate. And that was not an agreement with France. It was an agreement with Spain. And that was going to make a huge difference for us if all of a sudden we could not use New Orleans and Louisiana to navigate the Mississippi River. So what if you were Jefferson, what would you do? What would you try to do to keep the right of deposit? What would you do?
Talk to Napoleon.
What's that?
Talk to Napoleon.
Yeah, and he did. He wanted to talk to Napoleon not about just having the right of deposit, but actually he wanted to try to purchase the port city of New Orleans, because then it would be ours and we'd never have to worry about somebody else having it or making agreements with other countries. So President Jefferson makes a decision to try to buy this right of deposit from Napoleon in France. So he sends a diplomat by the name of Robert R. Livingston to France to negotiate the possibility of buying New Orleans, guaranteeing the right of deposit for the United States. So again, in 1800, Napoleon secured the territory of Louisiana for France from the country of Spain. It was about 820,000 acres. News of Louisiana being a French possession really alarmed President Thomas Jefferson because they did not they being the United States, did not have the right of deposit with France. They had the right of deposit with Spain. So he made the decision to try to send a representative to France to try to buy that right of deposit or buy New Orleans so that we would always have the right of deposit without having to negotiate with other countries. And so as a result of that, he sent an American diplomat by the name of Robert R. Livingston to France to meet with Napoleon. Now, when Jefferson talked to Livingston, he said, I want you to offer Napoleon $10 million, now listen carefully, for New Orleans, right here, and Western Florida, right here. So basically he wanted New Orleans and Western Florida. And he told Livingston to offer Napoleon $10 million for that, which should be $189 million today. Okay? So $10 million is what Livingston was ordered by President Jefferson to offer Napoleon for just New Orleans and Western Florida. Now, that would guarantee control of the Mississippi River and also guarantee control of most of what? What is this? The Gulf of Mexico, okay? That was his idea, alrighty? Well, the offer was made to Napoleon, and Livingston was shocked at his response. Livingston offers him $10 million for New Orleans and Western Florida, and Napoleon responds by saying, well, if you'll give us $10 million for New Orleans and Western Florida, what will you give us for all of Louisiana? Okay? And Livingston's shocked. He didn't think he had any chance of gaining that type of landmass. So he obviously gets back to Jefferson on this, and Jefferson says, well, offering $15 million for the whole thing, and see what he says. Okay? So after communication back in the United States with President Jefferson, the offer was increased from $10 million to $15 million, which would be about $283 million today. And we would get all of Louisiana, 820,000 acres. Napoleon agrees. And all of us, for 15. Napoleon agrees, and all of a sudden the United States has doubled their size in one transaction. Have you guys ever watched TV? Nowadays there's a commercial for Capital One, and they're all these guys are sitting there, and all of a sudden they're arguing about Louisiana, and a ding goes off on this guy's phone, and as everybody's arguing, he says, hey, by the way, I just bought Louisiana for $15 million, and it shows how you can pay on Capital One Pay. It's kind of cute. I should record it because I thought that kids might enjoy seeing that, but Capital One has a commercial showing that. Well, anyway, now, how did we pay this off? We paid them off over time with interest. And when we got done with this, the amount we paid was $27,267,622 after interest. $27,267,622. So that kind of shows you how interest occurs, because how much did we offer for it? $15 million. Well, by the time we paid it off with interest, we actually paid $27,267,622. You know how much that was an acre at the time? Anybody, any farmers in here? How much an acre of land worth out of your place?
I have no clue.
I bet it's worth more than 3 cents. Because that's what they paid for Louisiana, 3 cents an acre, which in today's world would be 57 cents an acre. You could buy a lot of land. Can you imagine? That's what we paid for Louisiana. We paid 3 cents an acre in those times, 57 cents an acre if it would be today. Can you imagine that? Now, what's your question in your mind? What's that? What's the catch? That's a good point. Why in the world would Napoleon sell all that land that cheap? Why would he do that? Anybody want to get? What's that?
He doesn't need it.
Why doesn't he need it?
He needs the money more.
Why?
Because they just...
Because he's fighting a war in Europe. He's trying to conquer all of Europe. And he wants the money, and he's thinking this, I'm not going to pay any attention to Louisiana. While I'm fighting in Europe, how easy would it be for somebody to come over and take it for nothing? Right? So he said $15 million is better than nothing. So he sold it. What a great deal for everybody. Yeah.
For like the people that live there, when they
In this area here, people that lived here what you might consider a little bit uncivilized. They're Native Americans. You know, Native Americans. You're going to find out. We talk about the Lewis and Clark expedition. There wasn't. Good question. There wasn't any settlers, American settlers, really west of the Mississippi, because we had no idea what was over here. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, we secure this. We double the nation's size by spending 3 cents an acre. I mean, just incredible. And Napoleon's willing to sell it. What's the catch, Dominic? Great. The catch is he didn't think he could secure it. He needed money for war. 15 million was better than nothing, and sold it. And it increased our country double. Okay, that takes us to the core of discovery, or other words, the Lewis and Clark expedition. The core of discovery, the Lewis and Clark expedition. why did we have a Lewis and Clark expedition? Anybody know why that even came about?
Figure out the land we just bought.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. President Jefferson wants to see what the heck he paid $15 million for. And nobody knows anything about that land west of the Mississippi. It's like wilderness area to everybody. They never even heard it. Matter of fact, there were rumors out there, you know, that there were mastodons and dinosaurs and huge grizzly bears and hostile Indians that cut your throat in a second. I mean, these were all rumors out there. That's why nobody really inhabited it, because we didn't even know what was over there. So after the Louisiana Purchase, Jefferson decides it's time to see exactly what the United States paid that $15 million for. Now, almost nothing was known about this vast territory. And Jefferson wanted to know about its natural resources, its animal life, possible inhabitants such as Indian tribes. If the rumors were true, there were giant mastodons and dinosaurs over there, which had been kind of falsely reported back to people west of the Mississippi, or excuse me, east of the Mississippi. And so to gain this valuable information, President Jefferson forms an expedition called the Corps of Discovery. Okay, he forms this expedition called the Corps of Discovery.
Is it core or core?
Corps, C-O-R-P.
Like the Marine Corps?
Yep.
Oh.
Now, there's going to be two parts to this mission. I already mentioned one, to explore and study the Louisiana Territory. That was the first goal or first mission of the expedition. Okay, what do you think else they were looking for?
Gold.
No?
Silver.
Fur.
No?
Northwest Passage.
The Northwest Passage. They had rumor that there was a water route from the Mississippi River all the way to the Pacific Ocean. We know that in history today as the Northwest Passage. And President Jefferson wanted to find out if that was true. Could you take a water route all the way from St. Louis, Missouri to the Pacific Ocean? We want you to see if you can find the Northwest Passage. Now obviously you can't do that, but you can, most of it you can. But this is what he wants to find out. Is it possible? What are the water routes? Can you get to the Pacific Ocean, or are those great big rocky mountains we've heard of going to be too impossible to pass to get to the Pacific Ocean? That was the second mission of the expedition, was to try to find a water route to the Pacific Ocean we know in American history today as the Northwest Passage. Now, here's how much they budgeted. The federal government had to budget this, what they were going to spend on this trip. $2,500, okay, which would be about $47,000 a day. That's not really very much when you think about it. It cost the city of Billings, Montana $55,000 to host President Trump when he came for one visit to campaign in Montana. It cost the city $55,000. So even $47,000 in today's money is not much of a budget for what this thing is going to entail. So the budget was $2,500 in those days' monies, about $47,000 today. Not a very big budget.
Oh, but they really didn't have much anyways.
Well, we'll see how it goes here. Now, President Jefferson first chose Meriwether Lewis of Virginia to lead the Corps of Discovery. Okay, Thomas Jefferson chose Meriwether Lewis of Virginia to lead the Corps of Discovery. He chose him. When he was chosen, he was just 28 years old. He was a very skilled soldier and a very skilled woodsman. And at the time, he was serving as President Jefferson's chief aide. So Jefferson chooses Meriwether Lewis to lead this expedition. He's from Virginia. He's just 28 years old. He was a very skilled soldier. He was a very skilled woodsman. And at the time of his appointment, he was President Jefferson's chief aide. Lewis then chose fellow Virginian William Clark to assist him. Lewis then chose fellow Virginian William Clark to assist him at the expedition. Clark was 32, a former Army commander, and his skill was making maps. Making maps. So Meriwether Lewis chooses fellow Virginian William Clark to assist him at the expedition. Clark is 32 years old. He was a former Army commander and a very skilled map maker. So keep in mind, this Corps of Discovery is going to be a military operation or military assignment. That's how it's going to be portrayed, okay? As a military assignment. Now, when they first put this together, Lewis and Clark put together a group of 45 men, including Clark's Negro slave, York. Okay? So the expedition, the Corps of Discovery, originally consisted of 45 men, including William Clark's Negro slave, York. Now this is an interesting relationship between the two because they were companions since childhood. York really wasn't treated like a slave, he was more treated as Clark's friend. But he was a slave in essence. I mean, technically he was a slave, and he belonged to William Clark, but they were more friends than they were, you know, owner-slave, okay? Well, we'll tell you about the equipment they took on the expedition. I'll give you 10 examples of the equipment they took. Very well thought out, very well organized. Anybody know what they might want? Jada, what would you take on this expedition if you were going to take it? What would you take? You going on an expedition? You ever go on a vacation, girl? What do you take? That's not, I mean, okay, we're all going to take clothes and all that. But what are the essentials you're going to take? What would you take? What would you take with you?
Yes, because you have cell phone.
Yeah, you gotta take your cell phone. What would you take? Come on, girl.
I don't know. Compass?
A compass. Yep. What?
A gun?
They took 15 54 caliber rifles. 15 54 caliber. Any guys shooters? Kendrick, you're a shooter. How big a load is a 54 caliber? Big, yeah. I have a 45-70, and I can shoot it about 4 times and I'm done. I mean, they are big. A 54 caliber rifle is a big rifle. It'll shoot big time. Okay.
Kill those dinosaurs that are.
Yeah, well, they didn't know what they're getting there. But 15 54 caliber rifles, and they had enough gunpowder, according to journals, to defend a fort. So they carried a lot of gunpowder and 15 54 caliber rifles. What else do you need with those type of guns to make them shoot?
Musket balls?
Well, they had, yeah, and flint. You know what flints are? What are flints? Or rifles? It makes the spark that ignites the gunpowder that shoots the rifle. Okay, they took 500 rifle flints with them. And rifle flints are used in firing the rifle because they're muskets, right? That create the spark that take the gunpowder down the barrel and shoot the projectile. So they took 15 54 caliber rifles and enough gunpowder to defend a fort. They took 500 rifle flints. They took 30 pieces of steel. What would they use small pieces of steel for?
Bullets.
No, what? Flints for what? Starting fires. Okay? They took 30 pieces of steel for starting fires, sparking to start fires. What else might they take? You go out and go hunting, what do you take with you? You got your gun, that's right. You would take, they took 288 knives. 288 knives were packed for this journey. 288 knives. What else might you take?
Compass?
No, because I'm not saying they didn't take one, but it wasn't listed as the equipment. I'm sure Lewis and Clark had compasses. Okay? But what else in bigger doses?
Bags and canteens and stuff like that.
Axes.
Well, they don't have, now this is a good point. It then says maps. This is a great point. There are no maps. That's why they're taking Clark. Clark's going to make all these maps. So that's a really good point because they have no clue where they're going. They have really no idea where they're going. There's nothing out there. The only thing they have to go on is rumor or maybe reports of fur traders in that areas or maybe Indian accounts. I mean, they're like going blind. Okay? What else would you take?
Horses.
Well, not right away.
Boats.
Okay, well, that's part of it, but I'm talking about equipment now, okay? If you go on a trip, you don't put your car down as something you pack. I mean, you just get in. But they're going to take keel boats, you're right, okay? But I'm talking about essentials.
Those are food supply.
They're really not going to, they're going to take a kind of food. But you might think they take a bunch of meat. Why aren't they taking a bunch of meat? Because it's
Well,
heavy.
they're-
They'll kill it on the way, right?
Jerky with them?
No, they took cup of soup. Only it wasn't called that. They took 193 pounds of boiled down or dry soup. Basically cup of soup. They took 193 pounds of that. Just like you'd go buy it, that's what it is, boiled down soup. They took 193 pounds of cup of soup, so to speak, okay, with them. Because it was easy to carry, so to speak, and it was easy to make. You had hot water and there you went. Or maybe cold water.
Think about the hunting that's there.
Huh?
Like, think about like how the hunting would be.
Yeah. What else might you take with you if you're going to be gone for a year or two? What? Well, they took those types of things, but I'm talking about maybe things to keep yourself going. Cards.
I guess they would want like rum or whiskey with them.
Well, no, they didn't want
Whiskey.
that.
Whiskey.
I'll tell you a story on that. That's not what they wanted, because they didn't want their guys drunked up all the time. What's that?
5-hour energy.
No.
So keep them going.
Girls, what would you take if you went somewhere for a long time?
Shower.
What? What? Somebody say over here?
Shower.
What do you use in the shower?
So,
Soap. They took 12 pounds of soap with them. 12 pounds of soap. So they took 15 54 caliber rifles and enough gunpowder to defend a fort, 500 rifle flints, 30 pieces of steel for making fire, 193 pounds of boiled down or dry soup, 12 pounds of soap, 288 knives. I'll just go over the rest here. They took 4,600 sewing needles. 4,600 sewing needles. Because they got to sew stuff. 4,600 sewing needles. They took 130